The Borderlands games are some of my favorites to play, and I still go back to enjoy Borderlands 2 whenever I can. Today, the next game in the series, Borderlands 4, has just been released, and it looks pretty amazing. Reviews have been praising it quite a bit, so I was pretty excited to play as soon as I could. I bought the game, got it downloaded, and of course, the first thing I had to do was go test it on the Steam Deck to see if it would run well. I didn't have a lot of hope, but that wasn't going to stop me from trying. So, in this video, I'm going to go over how Borderlands 4 was on the Steam Deck, my experience with it, and whether I would recommend playing it on the go. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. Before I begin the video, please consider subscribing to our Patreon to support us. If you subscribe to the $3 or $5 tier, you get full access to our website ad-free, access to exclusive podcasts, access to exclusive videos, the ability to help shape what we're going to be doing next video-wise, and much more. There is more planned, so if you want to support us, please go ahead and check it out, and thank you. For those who are curious about the previous games in the Borderlands series, we did actually write up an article and make a video about how every single Borderlands game before this one runs on the Steam Deck, so you can go ahead and check out that video or our written article. Link is in the description. Going into Borderlands 4 on the Steam Deck, I really didn't expect it to run. The minimum requirements are hefty, and Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford mentioned that the game should not be expected to run on devices below the requirements. Still, I wanted to test, and it's about as bad as I expected. Maybe a little worse in some areas and a little bit better in others. Starting with the opening areas of the game, it's usually stuck around 22 frames per second, with regular drops down to 8 to 9 frames per second when either loading into new areas or sometimes just random spikes here and there. Still, these drops were very often and very tough on the device. It appears that CPU usage is the big bottleneck, constantly spiking up to 100% usage, while GPU regularly sat at around 80 to 85%, and battery drain didn't always hit the highest possible drain. This was also all tested on the lowest possible settings, with everything set to low or off. This was also while using the best performing upscaler at the lowest settings, and from my testing with FSR, XeSS, and TSR, I found that TSR was just slightly better performing than FSR, and both were better than XeSS. Arguably, XeSS also looked the best, and while FSR looked the worst, TSR didn't fall up too far behind. FSR made everything look way too sharp and pixelated, and the ghosting was very obvious, while TSR made everything look like it was watercolor painted, very blurry, and washed out. Coupled with the lowest settings where shadows and lighting could just slowly crawl in and out, it was really not enjoyable. Even though it could hold 22 frames per second during fights once everything was loaded in, generally, which made it just barely playable, any sort of new enemy or big effects will start to kill performance just a bit. There were multiple scruffs where I had a random 8 frame per second drop come through, and of course it led to my death. I could still get through fights, but it was brutal. And then there's frame generation, and I can't say this enough, don't use it. The in-game frame gen is through FSR, and it introduces extreme input lag that makes it impossible to aim and kill anything. On top of that, the random stutters and drops I experienced before were 10 times worse, making the game slow to a crawl that felt like maybe 2 to 3 frames per second. This happened a lot during fights, so it really only made the experience worse on all fronts. Then there's lossless scaling frame generation, which admittedly is a step up, but I don't recommend it. The game definitely feels smoother more often compared to FSR Frame Gen, and the stuttering and drops aren't felt as hard, but they are still apparent and common. On top of that, input lag isn't as bad as FSR Frame Gen, but it's definitely there and still noticeable. It's not enough to stop me from killing anyone, and I was actually able to kill a couple people, but it definitely was enough to make me fall off a ledge. I don't recommend using lossless scaling at all, but if you decide to anyways, keep it to 2 times. 3 or 4 times will make the game much worse, with bubbling effects, more input lag, and significantly worse stutters. Either way, I performed and played better at 22 frames per second without frame generation over a sporadic 35 frames per second with frame gen, so in the end, I still recommend playing without it, though I also just don't recommend playing at all on the Steam Deck. Now, there are some positives to Borderlands 4 on the Steam Deck. The game does recognize the Steam Deck OLED's HDR screen, and it'll automatically pop open the virtual keyboard when necessary. It's nice to see the virtual keyboard popping up, since that's something a lot of games don't automatically do, and it also supports the 1280 by 800 resolution, so there's no black bars and no stretching. Still, it doesn't change the fact that this game is not something to play on the Steam Deck natively. If you are going to be playing Borderlands 4 on a handheld, I would avoid playing it natively on the Steam Deck entirely. Playing it on more powerful devices like the ROG Ally X should be a better experience, though I'm not sure how much better just yet. I plan to test it on other devices for our next video and report my findings. If the video is already out, it will be linked in the description, but unless you're going to be streaming from GeForce Now, I would avoid Borderlands 4 on the Steam Deck. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.